Hey everybody, I'm really excited to be back. It's Andy, aka Producer BTW, and of course, Love Retro BTW here on Twitch. And of course, adding on to that, you are in the cafe, by the way, or the Cafe BTW, a morning coffee gaming podcast. I am your host, and I think this is our 6th episode, and I'm really excited that we have continued the show consistently every Saturday morning, even though oh, thanks, Genzo. Genzo just subscribed. I appreciate it, buddy. And also,
Nice.
shout out to Genzo, who is the mod and has been kind of helping me set things up as we go. As you see on the bottom there, we have Ryan from Retro Game Brews, a really awesome guy. I'm so glad you came on, man. Thanks so much for joining me for this really cool morning. Where we're going to talk about, obviously, the main topic is physical video games versus digital video games. And we're going to jump into that later. But dude, before we kind of get started, I want to learn a little bit about you, if you could share for the audience, and also what Retro Game Brews is.
Okay. Sure. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. I've been a fan of yours on Twitter for a long time. You and I have had a chance to interact. Getting involved with Stand Up to Cancer along with you has been outstanding as well. And it's a fun experience getting a chance to join the podcast. I've been a fan of it since the first episode, so it's great to be a part of it now. So
Yeah, dude, and yeah, I wanted to mention that I am the community director for Stand Up to Cancer, the gaming side of things, and Ryan joined in on my first inaugural event, which was the SU2C Stream Team event. Dude, that was really great, and actually, we had some awesome support from the general Twitter retro community. And speaking of that, if you oh wait, I just echoed myself. Hold on. And speaking of that, if you go down on my panels, I have a donation link for Stand Up to Cancer. You know, right now, I want to make people realize that cancer does not stop. You know, we have cancer patients out there that are navigating through this difficult time. So if you feel like sharing $1, $2, the donation link is right there. All proceeds, 100% go to Stand Up to Cancer Research. We just had our 7th FDA approval, and I
wow.
could say that officially. And that means a lot. And thanks so much, Duck, for coming. Davey, so good to see you, man. Princess,
Good
of
to see you
course.
guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. But Ryan, I do want to thank you personally on camera here for joining me and supporting Stand Up to Cancer like you have, and
Thanks,
I
man.
really appreciate it. But let's talk about RGB High Score. And I have
Sure.
it here on the screen. This was, I think, your last tournament, correct? Or is this still going on?
Let's see here what you got up on
I got
screen.
the turtles. The turtles up. Turtles.
Yep. So that is still going on. So
Okay.
this is strangely enough, there's a few incantations of RGB high score that have been going on for the last almost 2 years. So it'll be coming up on 2 years here in September, which is crazy to hear or crazy to think about. Because to me, it just started
Two
off as kind of a fluke.
2 years,
Uh,
really? All
2 years,
right.
yeah. So originally, what it was is I was playing my NES Classic. I was playing Donkey Kong on my NES Classic, and I thought I was doing pretty good. Right, I had, looped it quite a few times, and I was pretty impressed with my score. And I said, "All right, I'm familiar with Atari Age. They've done contests where people play and then submit a picture of what they've done with a little sticky note that says, what the date is and who they are." And I said, you know what, I could probably do that. I wonder if anybody would be interested in kind of joining me along with this journey. Because really, I just wanted to see how good I was compared to my friends, which I found out I'm not very good at all. So that was a humbling experience, to say the least. But it was fun because what I found out is that people were really interested in doing this. And it wasn't something that was necessarily ubiquitous on the Twitter sphere, if you will. It was something that was more prevalent in forums like Atari Age or Nintendo Age, those kinds of things. And it hadn't really been brought to Twitter in large quantities, if you will. So started doing that. In the first contest that we did with Donkey Kong, we had over, I think it was 14 people who submitted a score. I said to myself, okay, you know what? If 14 people are willing to just do this off the cuff, maybe we can make this into something bigger. So I, for one reason or another, decided to make it a 10-game season with a 4-game playoff season as after that.
Wow, a 10-game
Yep.
season? That's pretty strong.
Yep.
I like that.
So we did NES games all the way through, like Balloon Fight. We did Bubble Bobble. We did Tetris and Dr. Mario, and had a lot of fun with it. A lot of people really got engaged with it. We were having, 20 to 30 submissions every single week that it was running, and then we ended up having a champion who was also a world record holder and referee for Twin Galaxies won the whole thing. Eric Merciless 365.
Nice. And
And
Twin Galaxies, just to let everyone know, is it the true canon for keeping track of tournaments records, right? I mean, just so people know what Twin Galaxies
it
is.
was, unfortunately, recently due to some controversy, a lot of it having to do with Billy Mitchell and other things.
Oh
It's
God,
kind of
when does
lost.
Billy Mitchell not come up in conversation?
It's funny because we started with Donkey Kong, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's very connected
Right.
to Billy Mitchell.
For sure. And then, like, about March of last year, thought to myself, well, you know what? This could be something that we could do online. So we started doing monthly one-night tournaments. It started off with an F-Zero tournament, brought 8 people together, had them race the same race simultaneously, where they like put their screen or broadcasted their screen on Discord, and I captured it and put it on my Twitch account, and that has been extremely successful
Awesome.
from what we've seen, and it's been a lot of fun. We've been doing that for, I think March was the year mark, so we got another one coming up here May 15th. It's an all-female Dr. Mario tournament.
I have it pulled up here if you want to shout them out. So yeah, tell me about the upcoming tournament, which I think is awesome. An all-female Dr. Mario tournament. Amazing.
Now, I will admit that was not my idea. In fact, we were sitting one night in Twitch with actually Princess Kitty, who's going to be competing in this, so she's actually in chat right now. She and a few other friends, Farrell and Octo Taco, were talking about, hey, you know what? We want an all-female RGB high score. So just said, hey, you know what? If you guys are interested in that, that's something I can definitely do, and I would love to be able to at least host that for you. So it's definitely it's
Octo Taco was the idea, right?
Well, Octo Taco, Princess Kitty, and Farrell the Farrell.
All right, I'm just pulling them all up on Twitter so people can see them.
Sure.
Cool. Oh, Blue's in it. Love Blue.
Yeah, Blue is in it. Red Ox, PDX. We've actually got a few friends of friends. Ducks in Disguise's wife. She created a Twitter account just to play, so it's been a bit amazing. It's been a great experience. Yeah. Critically Lit's wife. She's going to be a part of it too.
Farrell. She's cool.
Yep, for sure.
Oh, awesome. I just pulled them all up. This is great. I love this, dude. I also love you. Did you make this Dr. Mario like looking cross-eyed?
So yes, I did. So I found the background for that Dr. Mario, and I thought to myself, it looked weird that it didn't have any eyes on it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw some googly eyes on it. So I picked up a GIF of one.
So
there you go.
I want to give you kudos for this, and I really am sorry that I've been trying to support it as best I can. I need to join in one day when the appropriate game is available to me, because I do have a Switch, but like I said, I have a Switch Lite, and sometimes I know there was one opportunity I probably had, but I would. Ryan, I need to be a part of one of these.
I completely agree.
So I know that I'm sorry that it's been kind of slow, but I do pop in when I can, and when I see people that are supporting the RGB high score. I think this is great. One, because it involves other people, right? Anything that involves other people in the gaming world where it's a community thing. And also, engagement is king right now. And I feel like you doing this is just amazing because you got people streaming on their own channels, playing these games, and it's all in a collective effort. So kudos to you, man. This thing's just going to keep growing. And I'm really, really excited. Do you have any, like a list of future games you could tell us about that you're going to be doing tournaments around? Or do you want to keep that tight to the chest?
Well, I wish I was that organized. Unfortunately, I'm not. So. Okay. Right. The only thing I can tell you is that the June tournament is going to be on my birthday, June 5th, which I'm excited about. So that should be a fun little event.
The June tournament? What?
Yep. So I might be doing Mario Kart. We shall see.
Ooh, I would like to do that one. That's one of my favorite games ever. Would you say, let me ask you your honest opinion. I do think that Mario Kart Deluxe is probably the best Mario Kart, in my opinion. Just overall, overarching, and just like great. Am I wrong when I say that? I think it's
no. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is freaking-tastic. It brings all the best elements to it. It's got all the best boards, and you know what? That's the beauty of it, is that they were able to capture all that. You see a lot of games where they're trying to take the old, bring it into the new, and it just doesn't match up well. Mario Kart has always done a great job with that, so for sure.
Okay, so obviously we do have a main topic, but what I like to quickly do is always ask my guests if they have just a quick topic to surprise our guests with. And I want to see, Ryan, what is your topic today before we get into the meat of everything?
So I'm a big fan of music, and in particular, one of the things that I like most about games is the ability to listen to it, not only play it, but be immersed with it, from an audio perspective. I'm an audiophile, if you will. So I'm curious, what are some of the best video game tracks, retro and modern, that really resonate with you, and kind of why is the topic for today.
Well, I can tell you Mega Man 3, which I pulled up right now, has an amazing soundtrack. And I
Oh,
actually, with the lovely ability of having access to YouTube, Ryan, I'm able to pull up these wonderful montages of video game music. You might not hear this on your end. I'm going to play some Mega Man 3.
love it.
Very good. Like, for just so incredibly involved for a video game tune. Like, it's what Super Mario sounded like, but just to the extent, like, I don't know, like, more intense.
And what's funny is it started off as Rockman in Japan, which obviously would refer to rock music, and I think that it lives up to its name very, very well. In fact, Mega Man in particular, 2 and 3, I have a lot of those tracks on my phone, and that's what I work out to, which is, it's kind of sad, but it keeps me motivated.
Nice. Well, Duck actually mentioned DuckTales, and I did think DuckTales on NES had a great soundtrack, which I'm playing right now.
Moon theme for sure. Oh, there you go, Duck said Moon theme.
So great. So I would say, just like in the general, Super Mario Brothers has, like, what are the sounds that you just could remember from retro days? And that goes for Super Mario Brothers, that goes for Zelda, the original, like the tunes that are just stuck in your head, I did pull up a bunch. Let's see, Mega Man 3 is a good one. Metroid has some amazing music.
Sure.
Mega Man 2 has some great music. Let me play that. Just, it sounds like, oh man, just great stuff, man. Let's see. Oh, of course, Ocarina of Time. Beautiful, beautiful music in Ocarina.
For sure.
I would say more, I don't know, it was just beautiful, like happy
It's
music.
more orchestral as you get along, as far as video games have developed and grown. The ability to be able to play these sounds has grown, obviously, as well. So being able to bring in more and more influences, more and more instruments, more and more sounds has really lend itself well to modern gaming, for sure.
Hey,
So I'm
Mega
thinking of
Retro, welcome. Yeah, go.
Hey,
You're
buddy.
thinking of what?
I was gonna say, like, things like Hollow Knight, Cuphead are some great examples of just bringing in
newer
extra
games.
sounds. Yeah, for sure.
That's great. I have some people. Let's see. We got Mega Retro. Thanks for showing up, Duck. Let's see who else. Geek says Final Fantasy VII, of course. Pro tip:
Yes.
Super Smash Brothers Ultimate has Mega Man soundtracks remastered. Says Davey. No way.
Nice.
That's cool. That is cool. So what is it though? Let's talk about this on a nostalgic level.
Sure.
When it comes to music, what do you think it is about that sound that video games kind of produce that gave us this like beautiful connection to the game? Like, what do you think was, because it's a very unique sound. It's like jazz, sure, right? Jazz was created in America, kind of. It's like a unique music that was formed. Video games is the same thing. It was like this new medium of music that was formed from designing these video games. So
for sure,
what was it that clicked in your brain about it?
Well, and the beauty of it is that if you think about it, the Nintendo era moving forward, music was kind of a requirement for games. If you look at Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision, those games had a lot of really great sound effects, but there wasn't music involved with it. And that's just because they couldn't. There wasn't enough space on the cartridge for them to accomplish that, and the technology wasn't there. But as soon as Nintendo came along, it became a part of the game. So eventually, the sounds that came along with it, they were always really melodic. So there was a strong melody to them. Often they had almost in a way followed the same principles as standard rock or pop songs, where there's a theme to it, there's in between, and it's almost lyrical in a sense. So there was times in which we could take that music and hum it along, and it became an earworm as a kid, where it would stick with you for days. I mean, if you were to play the first board to Super Mario 1, that is something that I think every generation,
even non-gamers will recognize that soundtrack.
Everyone knows that song, and it's because it's catchy, it's melodic, it uses the same principles as I said before of kind of what music is, but it creates a positive emotion along with it, rather than it being something that just pairs along with the game. It often follows along with what's happening in the game. So when you're underground, the music changes and it matches it to be much more dark and dank, versus when you're, in the water, it seems like it's like a happy-go-lucky kind of time, even though you're in danger. But it has a tendency to really match up with things, and I think that they've done a great job with that with most games, especially when it comes to retro. I mean, if you look at you gave the example of Metroid. Super Metroid, to me, creates the atmosphere in that game. If you didn't have that music, it wouldn't be as fun, or as how would I put it? It's almost as, it builds in suspense when you have that kind of creepy music to go along with it. So
Yeah, and I do want to talk about maybe a newer game that I was very invested in. And Ryan, I don't know if you knew this, but I was a host of a show called the Destiny Podcast, and we had a Destiny podcast for many years. It was 4 years I did this podcast, but I must tell people that the music in Destiny was outstanding, and that goes for Bungie being very focused on music. And can we not forget the title screen of Halo? Just like
like a Gregorian chants kind of thing.
They did, and Destiny was more drum related, like lots of big, like just real, like I would say Fantasia-esque type music, and I really, really love that about Bungie, and I can't deny them as much as I felt betrayed when Destiny 2 came out, and that's a whole nother episode, by the way. I will be bringing my former former host of a Destiny podcast on here. We're going to do a throwback to Destiny, and he is playing Destiny currently, so I really want to get a perspective. But just in general, the music by Bungie, I don't think people talk about it enough. And, another thing to mention, and, I come from the entertainment world, and they always say the best cinematography is the cinematography you don't notice. And I think the best music is the music that just sucks you in. Like, you're not even noticing, you're hearing it, but it's just what you're seeing on screen is matching what you're hearing right at the right moment, and everything clicks. And I'll give one more example. When Minecraft first came out, the beta of Minecraft, I was playing it, and I don't know if you ever play Minecraft, when you just like randomly like mining, you hear the music just start to kick in, and it plays this like really great tune, and it comes out of kind of nowhere, and you never know when it's coming. But like, I'd be mining in the deep depths of my diamond searching, and you just hit that you'd hear that music hit, and it would just like flow emotion around your body in like such a positive way. I really honestly felt that way with that feeling that game gave me. And the way they brought music in and out of Minecraft is really interesting, by the way. So I don't know if people really think about that. Great topic. I think that we're going to have to do a really in-depth episode on music, but it's absolutely one of the most important aspects of video games, and I attribute a very large similarity to how important music is, just like how important music is to cinematics and driving story in movies. Video games and movies have that kind of common bond with how important music is to driving the video game. Whether it's a story-based game or not, it doesn't matter. The music is driving you, and maybe that works more immersive in VR as well. I don't know, but Ryan, great topic. I love it. Thank you. It's a very, and I like to say on this show, we take the simple gaming topics, but we kind of like dive into it and think about it from a different perspective, like a nostalgic perspective, and like, what does it mean to us, these things, And we did a deep dive in nostalgia 2 weeks in a row. I talked about what is nostalgia, and then the following week we did Saturday morning cartoons, which is heavily, I mean, I can't tell you how much. Anyway, that's a whole nother ball game. But I want to. We talked enough about music. We talked enough about RGB high score, which I love. So why don't we talk about what the meat of the show is, and we're gonna get real into this, Ryan. Okay, I'm just telling you that. It's digital video games versus the physical video game, and I mean, what are the differences? Are physical games going to fall out and disappear one day? Are digital games continuing to take over the market? Well, that is what we're going to be diving into today. And Ryan, before though I jump into this, and audience, before we go into it, there's, I like to do a lot of research and think about what motivates my topics. I might have been motivated by our Saturday morning cartoon topic because on Twitter, I'd be posting like a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I got to talk about this. I post all these things. So I was so bored last weekend looking for something to watch. And I was like, I love video game documentaries. And I was wondering if there were any new releases of any new video game documentaries. And apparently on Amazon, there was a new release for a very interesting documentary called Not for Resale, which talks to the independent video game store owners currently that own the mom and pop retro video game stores and those retro video game stores that also sell new items. So I did want to show this trailer just to give everyone a taste of what motivated me. And this documentary deals with the fact that, physical games are still important and the future of physical games are still important. We're going to dive into that, but I thought I'd show you guys a little bit of this trailer, and I absolutely recommend this documentary.
I opened this store just 25 years ago. I had a mail order business called Master the Game in the back of EGM and GamePro.
The store is a little bit like a museum, and I would imagine most game store owners feel that way.
I really just love being around people passionate about the same things I'm passionate about.
I mean, when I was dreaming about, I'd like to have a game company, my dreams were walking into a store and seeing it on a shelf. By the time I got to where we were actually shipping our own games, it was like, okay, we should do this all digitally.
You could buy video games on your Xbox over the internet.
Oh yeah, I can download this game.
I think the benefit to the consumer about digital distribution is freedom. Anyone can make anything. You can get this game out there to people.
Well, if I buy it, what happens? What do you own?
James Rolfe, angry video game nerd.
Passed from one hand to the other.
Yes, you have those things, but now no one else can.
You kind of get to come back and relive those moments, times that
I like
were a
the
little
music.
less stressful than they are today.
I didn't think I wanted to be a business owner, but I love it. I don't think I could go back now.
I think I mostly download games now.
Maybe you don't want to own all these pieces of plastic and paper.
Games, and the fact that they're sort of like ever-changing, ever-developing, it's not something you can really like latch onto and say like, this is the definitive thing. It's like ever-changing.
Everything in the world is moving toward replacing people and having to pay them.
It's not about the game. It's about how they came across the game.
So that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that trailer. It's an excellent movie. It's only like an hour and 25 minutes. Absolutely worth your time if you like video games. So what were they talking about in there? And what is this documentary about? What it's exactly about this topic? It's why are physical games still really important? And why are digital games still important? Because Ryan, I think that both have arguments to why they're important, but most importantly, and the big question is, are physical games going to disappear one day? But before we talk about that, I want to hear your general reaction to the basic name of the topic, physical games versus digital games. I want your opinion first.
For sure. So, I mean, I am a physical collector. It's something that I really enjoy. Right now, I'm sitting in a room looking at my NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega Saturn, all that good stuff. It's sitting on the wall, smiling at me right now, saying, "Come play me." So I will say that for me, physical collecting is a part of who I am. It's what I'm passionate about, and I will always find a way to seek out that physical experience, not just for the games, but for what they were kind of talking about here too, this idea of interacting with people in a live setting, talking about the things that you're passionate about. I do that all the time on Twitter. I like going to your local retro store and having those conversations too. And often what you can do is develop relationships with those shop owners, with the people who patronize that business quite a bit. And you know what? That creates a community for you and for others in which you can connect and really relive the past. And that's essentially what I think most collectors are looking for, is an opportunity to relive the past or gain a past that they never had as a kid, because either they couldn't afford it or they had parents who wouldn't let them. So now it's finally that time that they have disposable income. They're ready to do what they want to do. And collecting is a big part of that. Now, as far as moving forward, though, with the industry, digital games are becoming much, much more ubiquitous from what we've seen for the next generation of kids that are playing games. So it becomes a convenience factor, especially when everything in the world is now becoming something you can order and have it delivered to your doorstep. So you can literally order almost everything on the entire planet off of Amazon or the internet. So
Right.
in that same sense, we're running into a situation where that desire to have that kind of community in-person interaction, for one, right now, obviously due to the crisis that we're going through, is probably not a good idea. But secondly, I don't know if the younger generation sees that as something that's necessary.
Yeah, some good points too. So Princess says, "Yep, I love physical video games." Sanity, thanks for showing up finally. I love it. I had to have him on the show first before he actually showed up. Sanity says, "Physical is definitely preferred by me." Davey says, "I try my hardest to avoid digital when I can. There are a few I have that will only ever be digital only." Ryan, great points. And I agree with a lot of what you said. Now, before I really dig in, let's step back a little bit. A brief history of downloaded games, because I think we all know what physical games are. But what's the history of digital games? Right? Like why did digital games come in? Because I think accessibility is important to remember. Like look, life is easier. I got rid of all my DVDs because you know why? They took up a lot of space. And I didn't need them anymore, but I didn't have a direct connection to my DVDs like I do with my video games. If you told me I'm going to get rid of my Sega Saturn collection, you'd be crazy. I'd be crazy to do that just because, going to sell my Sega Saturn games that are very valuable so I can just download them digitally. Oh, wait, you can't really download them digitally anyway. There's not a lot of them available. But I wanted to go through just a brief history. So this is really interesting. In television, in 1981-83, was the first home console to let users download games via a coaxial cable.
Yep.
Subscribers rented special cartridges that hooked up to your local cable and would be able to download a single game. Wow. Digital games go as far back, and maybe they even go further than that, but they go as far back as 1981. That's the year I was born. Excuse me. Hey, Biff, man, thanks for showing up, man. It's great to see you. And Sanity, of course. But let's move to 1983, and it was well, no, I think Game Line was what it was called. So this is what it looked like. It was like a cable box, right? But instead, it was video games. Unbelievable. Sega Channel is definitely worth the mention. 1994 to 1998. So look at that jump. Like, they were like, screw this digital thing because you know what? The technology wasn't there, right? So that was it. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't there. So Sega Channel, the Sega Channel, was a monthly subscription service for Sega 16-bit Genesis systems. Similar to Intellivision's offering, users paid $15 a month to access an ever-changing library of games that could be downloaded directly to cartridge. And that
begged my mom for one of those. I absolutely 100% begged it because there was a channel that was on my local cable channel that was just Sega Channel games, and they would loop through and just show game footage for hours and hours on end. That's how I found out about Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I didn't know what name of the game was for years until I got back into retro collecting. I'm like, oh, I know this. I've seen this before.
That's awesome. Now, here's one that I discovered today. I didn't really know about this. It was called Nintendo SATAView or
Satellaview. Yep,
Satellaview. The Satellaview was an ambitious project by Nintendo of Japan to offer games, music, and news over satellite. Users could tune in at certain times of the day and get at the content, which would be downloaded into a special add-on accessory that's strapped onto the bottom of the Super Famicom. Wow, pretty cool. And I think around 1995, that's when internet was kind of starting to like pop up, so it really makes sense. There was also Nintendo RANDnet. 1991 to 2001, Nintendo RANDnet service was specific to the 64DD add-on to the Nintendo 64, released only in Japan. And actually, really interesting about this is that I think there were only 2 in America ever made or something, or there were only like a few or a handful. And I think Metal Jesus had one. He's got one of them, right? Crazy. Yep. Crazy. Sanity says, I remember swapping Commodore 64 games on BBS back in the 80s. Oh my God.
Yes.
Do we have to talk about the 80s? We talk about the 80s a lot on here. By the way, Davey, Streets of Rage 4 is awesome. Yeah, I have it actually. I didn't try it. Now we're going to go to one thing that I have a strong connection to, and that's Xbox Live Marketplace and Xbox Live Arcade. So Xbox Live Arcade is a downloadable game service from Microsoft that stretched from the original Xbox into Microsoft's current game hardware, the Xbox 360. Now, I do want to show just one thing. Xbox Live was, to me, the real true step for online gaming for console. And this opened up the Xbox Marketplace. So I did want to show everyone just a little bit of clips from the original Xbox Live commercial.
Foolish mortals, you must know that I am invincible. You will come to rue the day you ever messed with the Dark Master.
Taste it! Yeah!
Lick my food, you skinny wuss. Go on home to mama, little girl. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Oh, made you squeal on that one, didn't I?
I don't even know if this game is real that they showed in this.
The one with like the Minotaur right there?
I win!
Yeah, I
You lose! Dark Master won the game!
I'm sure it is. Sure, it's an obscure fighting game that I'm not familiar with.
Master, stir.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip through this to the good stuff.
All right. Sleeping Giant X. Dark Master. Dark Master, I'm with you.
So this was like an early look at console online gaming in the trailer, which is interesting.
Wait a minute, where's Captain Carnage?
I pinged him. I did not get an answer.
I remember long before Xbox Live came out, Halo 1 wasn't available for online play. But what me and my friends
Connect.
used to do.
Xbox Connect.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about right now.
Right into your PC. You take the Ethernet cord, put it right into your PC, and then you could play. You'd have to log into it on your PC itself, find a group of people. Lag was terrible.
But you could play, I believe it was 16 people in a match you could play. I remember that was amazing. Dude, I was there with you. I had Xbox Connect, and I thought that was an amazing because it was an Ethernet hookup on the original Xbox. So you could technically get as high speed as you freaking can. But I did want to talk about the Xbox Live Marketplace because that was very important. Were you involved? Did you purchase anything on the Xbox Live Marketplace back in the day?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things is that my mom, a lot of times, since she worked late hours, so did my dad. It was the discussion was, well, I can't go out and buy these games for you. I at the time when the Xbox first came out, was in that age where I didn't have a whole lot of disposable income, so they agreed to purchase games, and then that whole online option made things a lot more simpler for someone of my age and kind of what my family situation was. So definitely purchased a lot. To be honest with you, I'm trying to think of like actual games that I had purchased through it, but nothing's coming to mind. Because all I can think about is the attachment that I had to the actual physical games that I owned, like Halo and Halo 2 and Fable and stuff. So, interestingly enough.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I'm trying to think like maybe Fusion Frenzy would be an example of one.
I remember Fusion Frenzy. Yep. That was a game that I wanted to love, but I just couldn't love it. I was like, oh, this is okay. It's pretty good, but it's not.
Well, and I bought it off of a demo disc, so it was on a demo disc that you got with a few other games, and I was like, wow, this is fun. These small mini games, and it gets really old after a while. It's definitely it's trying to live up to Mario Party, but doesn't quite get there.
So I think what I was segueing in now is to talk about so physical games are things that you can tangibly hold and you will always own, and like you said, Ryan, you could turn around and look at your wall and see these games looking at you. And you know that when there's an apocalypse, and I mean, technically we're in a pandemic, which is unprecedented, obviously. But if you had no electricity, for instance, but you had a generator, you could technically still play those games, right? Even in an apocalypse, we could be it could be, for instance, I live in LA. LA could fall off the US and become its own island, and I still have my physical games, my consoles, and I'm still playing video games, right? So what's the argument for keeping physical video games or continuing to produce physical video games? The argument is that when you buy a digital video game, you are not owning that. You just have permission from the distributor or whatever platform you purchase off of, like, for instance, Steam, which obviously is a huge digital marketplace and has been for many years, and one of the early people to oh my God, there's a game called Coronavirus Attack. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. Jesus Christ, already with
Well,
these?
there's like Plague Incorporated, which was around long before Corona showed up, but yeah.
Sandy says, yeah, I ordered Jay and Silent Bob's NES game that is River City Ransom clone a long time ago. That game looks cool. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
There you go.
I think that's a good tangent, the disconnect to digital games. Yes, it is. But here's where we have to talk about why is digital games a bad thing? Because, you know, Steam, if this is totally not going to happen, but if tomorrow something happened and Steam had to shut down, if Valve as a corporation had to shut down, that means all your games are gone. When you look at your Steam library, like for me, let's see if I can pull up my library. Let me show you what I have. You know, and I'm the typical guy that buys games on Steam and doesn't play them.
You and me both.
Yes. So I have 200 games on my Steam. If something happens tomorrow to Valve, those games are gone. But if something happens tomorrow to Valve, my physical games are still here. Right? So here's really, why is it a bad thing? Scott versus World, walking simulator, come online. But listen, there is no doubt that there are video games that just are going to be digital no matter what we think of them, right? There's just no doubt that digital games are going to be continued to be made. And there's games out there that I love to play that are digital only. You know, there's games that I would never buy as a physical game, right? Like this game I bought the other day, Beholder 2, or Euro Truck Simulator. Would I ever go in the store and buy Euro Truck Simulator? I don't know. I don't think so. Do I need a physical copy of Euro Truck Simulator? I don't think so. Do I need a copy, though, of Streets of Rage 4? I would argue maybe, right? Because it has like a more connection to me, and I think that it'd be cool. Davey says, what's the other game Konami brought out then removed from the PS Store? Are you talking about, the what's it called, Kojima game? PT. PT was released, and that's a great example of a digital game released, and they pulled it off the store. You know that they were selling PlayStations that have PT inside of it for lots of money on eBay because you can't download it or access it. I actually have on my old PS4, I was able to download like where you can access like re-download PT, but then when you try to re-download it, it says nope. I'm like, well, there's an example right there. And I guess that's like the part of it that's kind of scary to me. But Ryan, do you think there will ever come a point in the next 15 years that we will see physical games end? Is there?
I do.
Okay. How long do you think that's going to happen?
That's a great question. So I'm going to play a little bit of correlation here with this one. So think about this. When is the last time you purchased like a physical CD album?
Oh God. Oh my God. You know what? I have no idea.
Exactly.
Years ago. Can't even remember.
And so the games industry is kind of going in the same direction. The reason that it wasn't doing that back when Napster was popular is because the games have just gotten so big. So the technology has never really been there. But the convenience factor of being able to download a game or a song, rather, 4 megabytes, 6 megabytes, whatever it is, onto your computer and then transferring that onto some kind of MP3 player was hugely popular. And still, it gets to the point in which I download stuff off of iTunes onto my phone all the time, right? So that physical experience. But there are plenty of collectors out there that are looking for cassettes, CDs, vinyl, especially vinyl nowadays. It's become much more popular to try to find that. And it's the same thing when we look at video games, is that it's starting to make that transition. The difference is the generations, right? You and I grew up in a generation where physical media was the only way really to access games outside of purchasing some kind of service. So we have this strong connection to it because when you went to the store and the guy pulled that game off of the shelf, or you went to Toys R Us and you handed the guy the ticket and they brought it back with you, there was this, dopamine experience that you went through, this nostalgia of the car ride home, like playing with the cellophane and looking at it. Or maybe you just were, too impatient and you ripped open the game and looked at everything and took a look at the manual. Kids nowadays have no connection. in that sense.
They have no connections. I mean, babies are born swiping left and right on their
That's it.
iPads.
Right. Everything comes in an iPad or an iPhone or comes on a console or comes on a PC. There is no physical interaction with that. The one problem, though, is that if you look at MP3s, when you download them, you can essentially move them to other objects and they are yours in a sense. You have that information. You can do with it what you please.
Here's a third generation iPod, by the way. Second, I think.
Right.
Third. Very old one.
There you go. Now with games, though, is that you don't really have ownership of them. It's relegated to a specific console or a marketplace in which you put it there. A lot of times, if you try to access a game and you're not connected to the internet, you can't use it, especially if it requires some kind of update. Like to your point, if I went to the Apocalypse and right before that, my Steam library had announced that an update was required in order to play this game. If I went to go and log into it and I had my generator running, it would tell me I needed an update and I couldn't play it.
Right.
So there's definitely some drawbacks to that digital experience. Now, the difference that you're going to see, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, it has a lot to do with what Xbox and Google are doing right now, and this idea of cloud gaming, where all the games that you purchase, you're essentially going to be purchasing and accessing license to that. That's also, to me, a little bit dangerous, but it does, I will say, at least from a game preservation standpoint, at least it keeps the games in a centralized location, keeps them safe. Because I think that's the other argument when it comes to physical. People want to preserve these games, but I think also you have to really focus on what experience are you looking for out of this? So for you, you're not going to sell your Sega Saturn collection because it has a sentimental value to you. But you also play the games, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got a CRT behind me with my Saturn hooked up, and I play that. I was playing. What was I playing recently? I've been playing Virtual Cop 2 because I have the gun, and you could shoot the CRT TV. You can on LCDs. Cannot use a light gun on LCD.
And the interesting part about that is that your experience with that is tied to more than just the physical game itself, right? So if the only option you had, like you said before, to access a game that you felt nostalgic about or wanted to play was digital, it's kind of like c'est la vie. And I think eventually this next generation is not going to care enough about it, but there's always going to be guys like you and me who are clamoring for physical. So I think that it will exist in small quantities, like how Limited Run Games is doing things, but I don't think that it's going to be something where you're going to go to Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and say, I'd like to purchase that.
Right. So yeah, and Biff Bufflington said you can't blow into a cartridge to fix a download game. And can I leave my Steam library to my kids?
It's a good point. It's a good point.
Son, you just turned 16. Here's my Steam library.
Here's my Steam password.
It's really sad though that the nostalgic around like collecting tangible things is kind of dying. I mean, comic books. Can I just mention about comic books? Comic books were already on the verge of problems. And I'm talking about comic book stores where they're on the verge of staying alive. Even though there's superhero movies and the comic book industry is strong in a sense, it's not as strong as you think. And after this pandemic, I've been watching Kevin Smith talk about it. Comic book stores are going to have a serious problem. Now, will retro game stores have a problem? I don't think so. I mean, they might be going some hardships right now, just, everyone is. But I'm hoping that retro game stores are still going to survive. But Ryan, eventually there's going to be no retro games to sell. It's going to, so in the retro video game store is dying slowly, I think.
Right.
And we have this amazing store down the street from me called Game Dude, 30-year-old retro game store. So they have a library of like games from the history of being open for 30 years, but not all these retro game stores have that ability. They buy their games and build their stock, where Game Dude for 30 years has been building their stock, so they're going to be fine. But all these, I see these new retro game stores pop up and I look at their inventory and I'm like, well, it just looks like you just bought a bunch of expensive shit on eBay. And it's kind of like, I know the stores that have more of a tie to like their collections than the stores that are just popping up to, here are the games that we have so far. So I think that it's unfortunate that physical games might go out, but I do want to make note that there's one game that that you could look at, and Rocket League, for instance, was a game that was originally digital, and I believe it was only available on the PS4 store. And this is a digital game that blew up. And guess what they ended up doing, Ryan? It became so popular, they printed physical copies. So there have been moments where digital games have become physical copies. And Rocket League's a perfect example. It's a popular game. And we can't forget there's people out there that don't have internet connections. There's people out there that can't download games still in 2020. Right. Am I wrong? So Rocket League thought it makes sense to make this game physical so that everyone has a chance to play. So that's
absolutely right.
That's another fair point about how about the digital games that became physical. You know, that's interesting. So I want to mention that there have been great opportunities for games to be digital and be physical and be successful. So, but it's very
another one that comes to mind is Shovel Knight. That would be another one.
Sure.
That blew up big time for sure. It's great to see those that they've taken a lot of indie games and turned them into physical titles. I love that. It's amazing.
So every show I try to do a poll that relates back to obviously the main topic. Last week I put a question: physical video games. I wrote of digital. I meant or. Well, I think everyone understood what I was trying to get at. Overwhelmingly, 52.5% out of 284 votes said physical games. Digital only had 14.8, but to I added both. Both was at 32.7. So it looks like people still love physical, but they do like both. But they don't want just digital. So that's what my poll says. Sandy says a lot of our military brings consoles overseas and they don't always have internet. The great point, Sanity. They don't always have internet access, so we have to send them consoles. And we're still in the console era. I'm a little nervous because I'm looking at like the Xbox Series X or whatever, and it looks more like a computer than it does a console. Right. But that's another episode. We're not going to get into the console side of things yet. But we're kind of towards the end of the show here, Ryan. And I just wanted to ask, do you have any final thoughts on digital versus physical?
I really hope that physical still has some position in the marketplace. But a lot of that has to do with people from our generation voicing that opinion, making developers and video game companies aware that physical is what we want. And if you continue to want to have physical, you have to purchase physical to show it essentially you are voting with your dollars in that sense. You
are right.
Yep. So I would encourage you, if that's what you want to see continue to do, then make sure that as often as you can, buy physical.
Yeah, and I want to thank everyone that showed up. But most importantly, Ryan, it was awesome to have you on the show. It was awesome to just, really dig into this topic. I think this was a good topic for you since you're so heavily connected to retro games like me and collecting. I always tell people that I once had an amazing collection until my mom threw them out in college. And I've been rebuilding my childhood, I like to say, because that's another thing physical games do. It's like rebuilding your childhood. I'm looking at my childhood, literally. But my generation's the only one that can feel that way, or around the generations that had childhoods in the 80s, late 80s, 90s, that grew up around this amazing culture that we got. Someone had mentioned in chat the tickets at Toys R Us. I can't tell you what it was like going with my dad, and I ran to the aisle to see if the ticket was available for Shadow of the Empire, for instance. And I was like, damn, the ticket's not there. Dad, we got to come back next week. And I'd run and look for the ticket that I wanted. But there was nothing cooler than seeing that ticket, taking the ticket, giving it to your parents buying it, and then taking the receipt and going to that glass window of that beautiful glass window. And I was beautiful. I want to work there, Dad. I want to work in that glass window. Because if anyone knows, Toys R Us used to have this like enclosed window with all the games. It was just like amazing. It almost looks like how a retro collector's like your cabinet would look, or their shelving would look. Oh my God. I wish I could time travel back to Toys R Us.
Just pick out all the games. I'll take this.
I'll take that. But I do want to let you guys know that we are back every Saturday at 8 a.m. PST, and that's 11 Eastern. I do a replay of this episode later today. Oh, thanks so much for the follow, man. Appreciate it. And also, Al, thanks for showing up. Crystal, hello, welcome. PlayX, thank you for coming. And of course, Sanity, Biff Bufflington, Davey. Let's see who else we had. We had Mega Retro. We had, did I say Sanity? Because he finally showed up. Duck showed up. Thank you, sir. Danny Naps. Shout out to Danny Naps. He is the wonderful gentleman that is putting together all these awesome art pieces. And if you want, he is right here. He does all the art for Cafe BTW, from the background here on Twitch to all my emojis available. This guy's fantastic. Check him out on Twitter, on Instagram. Shout out to Danny Naps if you're in the chat, buddy. I bet you're here. And again, I cannot thank you again, Ryan, for coming on. I want to raid someone, because I keep shutting the show off and forgetting to raid someone. So let me look for someone. Let's go to like the retro community. You know, let's just raid someone randomly. How do you do a raid? It's just /raid into whatever.
/raid and their username.
You know what? Since we're doing a podcast, we're going to do podcasts. How about that? Let's see. I don't know any of these people. Let's see. Actually, I'll show everyone as I look. Did you have fun, Ryan?
Oh, I had a blast, man. Thank you so much for having me be a part of this. It's
you're welcome.
You know, we had talked about it a while back, and finally glad we got a chance to make this thing a reality. And thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you, man. I hope we could do more of this, honestly.
For sure.
This guy looks cool. He's got a beard. He's kind of like your typical retro dude. His name is the Gaming. How do you say that? Galleon? Let's just raid him. Who cares?
Let's do it.
I don't even know this guy, but we're going to raid him. Oh, no, that didn't work. How do I do the raid? I'm sorry. I'm still a noob, everybody.
Sure. Okay, so you type... Let me see if I can type in the chat.
Such a noob.
/raid. And then
you can do it in the creator dashboard? Okay. I didn't know that. Okay, hold on. Let's raid.
There you go.
There we go. All right, so we're going to raid this guy I don't know. He looks like a retro guy. He's sitting right by his CRT TV or his LCD. He's playing. Hey, everybody, thanks so much again for making it on the show. Oh, God, I'm doing that. But I'm going to be back next week. I don't have the topic, but I wanted to say this to everyone, and Ryan, especially you, because you're here. Remember, practice social distancing, practice physical distancing. Also, there's just one thing I really have to tell everyone. For Christ's sake, wash your hands. See you next week, everybody. And thanks again, Ryan.
Bye-bye.